Good evening. I'm Alexander Fraser, producing director of Bucks County Playhouse, and welcome to tonight's edition of Word of Mouth Live. October's a big month for us online at the Playhouse. We have tonight's show. Next Saturday, we have another edition of Playhouse Live Variety featuring special co-host Hunter Foster and performances by Elena Shadow, our Sarah in Guys and Dolls, and Brandy Siobhan Massey from Buddy Holly. And the Saturday, October 24th, is our first virtual gala, the 2020 Playhouse at-home gala, featuring a special performance by Cyndi Lauper. Hope you can join us for all those things. Please welcome Michaela Murphy and Ophira Eisenberg.
Hey, thanks, Alex. Hi, Ophira.
Michaela, how are you?
You know, I'm good. I can't believe I was just sitting here realizing that it's the same time. It's October, but it's completely dark out. So it's like time is moving on. Oh yeah, time is moving on.
Daylight savings. Nice to see you. Daylight savings is next weekend, everybody. Because I know everyone was like, could I have that extra hour?
Yeah, we get an extra hour.
Do we lose an hour? Do we lose an hour? Which way is it? Fall
back.
We
fall back. So we lose. Yeah. So no, we're not gaining an hour. And
maybe that's good.
It'll be dark for lunch. Anyways, nice to see you. Nice to see everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in.
We gained an hour. Michael just told me we gained an hour. I can't believe I don't know the math of daylight savings. Anyhow, great stories are coming your way. Don't worry.
No, I have no idea what we're doing.
Fine.
You know what? So it's 2020. We're all cut some slack. That I mean, I barely know what day it is. I say it several times
That's
a day.
Right. Yeah. Right. I feel like the expectation for me to do time math is pretty high right now.
Exactly. To know like what's happening a week from now, daylight savings. That's like a complex math problem.
I know. Yeah. I was showing off there for a minute, but then I was put back in my place. So it all worked out.
I totally get it. So thank you all so much. This is Word of Mouth. My name's Michaela Murphy. This is my co-host.
Hi, I'm Ophira Eisenberg. We come together every few weeks and bring together, I would say, an unbelievable collection of some of the best storytellers that you and I know. Some of them are close friends, some of the people that we've just been able to work with before, and some are new faces that we've met recently.
Yes. It's actually really, it's one of my favorite things. It's just a nice way to connect, and also my favorite thing in the world, to hear great stories. And let's just give you a little background on how we do this. For some of you returning, just bear with us. But when Alex Fraser, whom we just met, first asked me about doing this, you know, I thought, oh no, like stand in my living room alone and talk to a computer with no audience. And then I was talking to Ophira about it, and we thought, you know, what could be really cool is if to tell the stories to another person, so that there's there's an audience there, and it really works, you know, and it really works for the storytellers, because otherwise I'm manufacturing a story and a reaction and a telling, and this way I'm not. So that's how we do this. So you'll see two people on screen, but one is telling a story and the other is hearing the story.
That's right. And I don't know if you've ever tried to just tell a story out loud to yourself alone. But yeah, that's not the way the art should be experienced.
No, I actually have that, and like that's why I don't want to do that. It's like it's a lonely,
different thing.
Lonely enterprise.
So this is supposed to feel more like we're hanging out.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like an eavesdropping kind of vibe to it that I kind of dig. You know, if you're at some place and you're like, oh my God, hang on, somebody's telling an amazing story. So our theme tonight is habits. Habits.
You know,
and I was thinking about it, you know, like this week, you know, what's the difference between a habit and a compulsion?
I guess practice.
Yes, the longevity of the behavior. Yeah, maybe. I have no idea. And I think this week it's my turn.
Yes. Tell me a story about habits.
I do. I have
whatever line they cross, or no line at all. I don't know.
This one kind of has habits in a couple of different forms. So I went to Catholic school, K through 12, all girls Catholic school.
Habits.
And in third grade, It was like elementary school is like, K through 8, and then there was like the high school. But so we're walking into the cafetorium, and it's this big event because it's the day of the 8th grade science fair, and 3rd grade was like the grade that got to like go to witness the science fair, the 8th grade science fair, right? So it's this all girl, kind of cool when you think about it that way, these young Madame Curies, these young scientists. So we're really good. And my teacher, Sister Anne, she was one, like, even though Vatican II had said the nuns could like wear more casual clothes, which was, like the folk mass vibe that came in there. But Sister Anne was old school. So she wore like full on, like, Maria Vine, like the whole, like the wimple, she was like, she was like a battleship, the way she kind of moved. And it was like these gowns, right? So we're trotting after Sister Anne into the cafeteria. And everything we did, except for recess, was always like in a line, like, that was very, very ordered. So we're in a line against the wall, and we can see beyond us the tables with these like amazing feats of science that we're about to experience. And she's giving us the lay of the land. She's just like, all right, like no touching, no talking, this is very serious. These are the creations of, the students that you will become if you're lucky in the future. And this is what you have to look forward to, but we want you to go through here and observe, but do not touch and do not talk, all these restrictions, and like have fun. And then she says this thing that's kind of doesn't really go along with this. Like she just is like, you're free to go. And we were all kind of confused because like we weren't going to do this in any kind of like line or order. We were just going to be free to roam, that was very unusual for us. So we start roaming around, and so we're looking at these science projects, and it's like these, those like poster boards. It's like, folded into like, a triptych, and it's like how the heart works, and like, here's the solar system, and it's got like dangling balls and stuff. So we're going around and we're looking at these things. And I happened upon this one science project that really like blew my mind, because I'm looking at this like, I'm in 3rd grade. So like, these are like, I was amazed. I was like, students did this, it was like this combination of like scientific curiosity and creativity. And I was just like, really like, this is amazing. I thought these were like, the future Nobel laureates, we're looking at like, this is genius. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like, this is like something I'm going to have to do. Like, I've got a lot of work to do. But I see this one science project that like blew my mind. So this girl had taken these pieces of metal and had somehow like magnetized them so that they formed this like crazy sort of sculpture. And it was, it was pretty big. But it was like all these tiny pieces of metal that were like hanging on like in these impossible, like really like impossible ways. It just defied like gravity and architecture, and like, how on earth does someone do this, right? So it's all there, and I just cannot figure it out. Like the solar system, I can see how, this was like, wait a minute, like this is
right.
How? So I'm looking at it, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. And there are these pieces that are just like hanging out on these impossible limbs, and I cannot resist. I just go to like to see, like, is it glue? Like, what's the magic here? And right as I don't even really touch it, but right as I go to touch it, I break the magnetic field, and the whole thing just like dissolves into a puddle. So just like this beautiful, fantastic, like how is now like just a mess on the floor. And so the first thing I do is I look around, and there's no one in the aisle at that particular moment. So no one has seen what I've done. So I do like total, like, hit and run. I just like start walking really, really fast and like become, absolutely fascinated with, like the 4 valves of the heart, in the other row, and my heart is beating and beating and beating, and nothing happens. And then all of a sudden Sister Anne's like, time to line up to go back to class. So we all get in line, and like, I'm, kind of like, no event, no one calls out. There's no scream from like aisle 3.
Right.
It's all okay. So we all kind of like, file back into our classroom, and we go in, and then it's like lunch, and I can't even eat because I'm sick to my stomach. Like, like I've destroyed someone. Oh my gosh. But then nothing happens. We come back from lunch, nothing happens. And then like about a half hour into like, our social studies class, another nun comes sailing in and goes up to Sister Anne, and they have like a little sidebar. And then Sister Anne gets up and they go out into the hallway. Now we know, like, I'm like 8 or 9 years old. We already know that like the hallway sidebar, like something is going down, and usually we're all like, what's up? But not this time. I become like even super more diligent about, studying my social studies thing, because I know what's up, and I am freaking out, and I'm trying to like convince myself it can't be that, it can't be that. And Sister Anne comes back in, and she just like kind of looks across the room. She's super quiet, which is really scary. And she like kind of drapes her habit around her desk, and she folds her hands, and she's like this, and she just looks at us. And Ophira, out of like the soul of my being, comes this sob, this and I am a mess. And I'm like the last person, my aunt was a nun. She was in the same order. So they all like kind of cut me a lot more. So I was like the goody two shoes who always like tried really hard and got straight A's. I would have been like the last person they would have thought would have been like the guilty one. And she kind of looks at me, and I can't even speak. I'm like, I'm just like seal barking, crying. And she's just like, and I'm just like, I like kind of get out of, and I stagger up to her desk, and she's just like, you are to go to Father Murphy's office. No relation, but Father Murphy's office, and tell him and confess what you've done. And then she brings out this pad, and she writes a note, and she pins it to my uniform, right? With a little pin. And then she like kind of pushes me towards the door. Oh my gosh. So it's like I'm walking to the gallows. Like I stagger out the door, and I'm in this hallway, and I am just a mess. I want to run, and I can't run. I've got to go and like face, which to me is like God, like Father Murphy, like, oh my gosh, like what the only time I ever saw him was like in communion. And now it's like, so I'm like literally like clutching the walls as I like stagger down to my punishment. And I get to his door, and it takes me like 5 minutes to even knock, because I'm just like, I'm so terrified. I'm like, oh my gosh. He's like, I'm dead. Like, I'm no longer Michaela. Like, this is it, so I knock on the door, and he opens it, and he sees this like little 9-year-old girl who's like, like just like sobbing, and I can't even speak. I'm just so racked with guilt. And can you imagine opening up a door to a night and like seeing a kid with like a big note pinned to her uniform, and she's like, so he unpins the note and he reads it, and I'm just like just, just give it to me straight. Like, I know, like, this is it. I'm going to be doing penance for the rest of my life. And he opens the door, and he beckons me in, and so I like stagger over to the couch. He's got this couch in his office, and he walks over to his desk. He doesn't say anything. And he opens up a drawer of his desk, and I am like, oh my gosh, like corporal punishment has not been around for years. I'm like, I guess we're going to like reintroduce it to the school system because of this crime that I've committed. And he reaches into his desk, and he pulls out a Charms lollipop. Do you remember those? They were like these, this is before like now, like where everything gets smaller and you pay. They were actually like a good size lollipop, or it gets to a 9-year-old. It was like this. And I'm like what? And he goes and he hands it to me, and I am so like, is this like a test? Like, am I taking this? Am I thinking? Am I like, this is the punishment I think I deserve? Like, is this some weird thing? And so he's like, no, here, have this. And so I kind of take it, and he's like, you can have it. And I'm just like, what is this weird thing? Like, it's even weirder than actually getting like punishment. Yeah. And then he sits down, and and he tells me that that clearly I have learned a lesson. I'm like, I have. And he's just like, you have to forgive yourself. Now it's time to like accept forgiveness. And I'm just like, what? Yeah. So then I realized like that he actually kind of means this, and he's actually being sweet. And like like when you're 9, like I didn't see myself as this little kid who was like hysterical, or like this was ridiculous, way over the top, but he did, thank goodness. Unlike man. And I ended up like hanging out in his office. Like, at one point he brought over a pat, because he was like, I hear that you like to draw. And so I was like kind of like sucking on this lollipop, and And then, later on, I had to go and apologize to the girl whose science and here's the thing too, it was like this easy thing. She just like kind of, and there it was again, this like all in its fantastic glory. So that was a big relief, and I got to find out how that actually worked. But I've always loved science, but I never entered anything into a science. Those third graders are just going to come and destroy it. That's the story.
Oh my goodness, Michaela, as a child, you were too hard on yourself.
Oh, you think? I know. I know. Had I been a little more mature, I could have, basically what he was saying to me is, there is nothing that I can do to you that you have not, that you're not going to do.
That will be worse than this. Oh,
I know. And I totally remember. Oh my gosh, I remember. I know it was like that. My guilt over that was so insane, so crazy.
Well, to quote, this is like a weird thing, but I heard it this week. To quote my friend's therapist, we were talking about being too hard on ourselves, actually. And we were talking about beating ourselves up. And she said that her friend's therapist says, which has been passed down, to beat yourself up with a feather.
Oh, I love that.
So
I wish beat yourself up with a charm pop. My Rhode Island's coming out as I'm regressing back. It's the thing about it too is that because I've been thinking about the story all day. Is like when I was, there's a little bit of this still, but not to this degree. Like I was a straight A kid, but it wasn't about getting the A's. It was just like, God forbid I fail, right? It's just about like not getting an F, like not getting something wrong, and it's so like antithetical to like what I believe now and what I try to teach is like make mistakes, try things, and how.
That's all we tell. Take risks, be willing to fail, fall on your face. What's the worst could happen? Yeah, and then you're like, you have to do it. You're like, well, I just wanted to go perfectly and everyone should like me, and then I just leave.
Yeah, straight A's was just like, it wasn't like this, like, achievement or this, achievement or this pride of like, accomplishment. It was just like, thank God it's not anything less than that. Anything less than that.
But I do like that Father Murphy was able to sort of see through it. I mean, also like, this sobbing little broken down 8-year-old is dropped with a note pinned to her.
I know, like on like the billboard of failure. Yeah, I know. But to think about it though, it's kind of like, well, it was, like it's kind of his job. Like obviously his business or his profession, his vocation is to deal with people who are suffering through terrible guilt and forgive them. So I guess he did his job well. He recognized. I've seen this before. I've seen where this goes in 30 years.
I've been to this rodeo, sweetheart, and you're gonna get a lollipop and a pad of paper.
Yeah. Come see me in 30 years. Yeah, totally.
Oh, that was great. That brought me back to science fairs. I remember that. I was very intimidated to enter the science fair because I felt people's projects were just so involved and
they really were.
And smart and creative. And I was just like, I was completely intimidated by that. I was like, no.
And I really love science. I know, like, I look at it now, it's like, oh, I was curious, but I should not.
Right. Yeah. You were curious. You who doesn't want to learn about magnets?
I know.
You learned about magnets.
I did. I definitely learned all about the magnetic field. Anyway, so that's my story. We have a great show.
Great story.
I'm excited about our other storytellers. We've got Peter Aguero, Leo Steingart, and Ray Christian. So you ready to roll here?
Let's do it. Yeah, our first
next storyteller. Yay.
Old friend of mine, and he is just a master storyteller. He performs back before this. He performed all over the country. Was like the person I always admired with the amount of traveling he did for amazing storytelling shows and solo shows, and also he's a regular host and teller with the Moth. Peter Aguero, everybody. Hello, Peter.
Hello, it's good to see you, man.
Good to see you too. I feel like I just have to say, I'm getting personal for a second. Your backdrop is it's nice looking. That whole bookshelf thing looks very presentable.
I got Optimus Prime and some of my pottery, and some art some friends made. This is my friend David Lawrence Bird made these say their names stamps. You can order them. Look up David
Oh, wow.
online. There's some great stuff and books and but somewhere I think right over here is Screw Everyone.
Thanks.
Right there, you know.
Is that a goal of yours to read one day? Anyhow.
I read it when I had jury duty. When it came out, I had jury duty, and
That's perfect.
yeah,
That's perfect.
it was absolutely perfect. I didn't get selected for the jury, so like it worked out. It was
I'm here for you, man. I'm here for you.
it was perfect. Yeah.
Hey, so this is ideal because you get to tell me a story about habits.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No, I know. Yeah. Well, I mean, I was thinking about it as I was. My new habit is I ride my bike everywhere, and I've been riding like I got a bike over the summer. I've been riding like it's been about 80 to 100 miles a week, just like all over Queens. And
holy.
Yeah, well, I mean, I got nothing else to do, so I've been thinking about it, and generally, like, you think about. Like, I've thought a lot about the things that think about the habits, the things that you used to do, because life is so very different than it had been anyway. Even without all this chaos, like things have been different. But I was thinking about something. What was something that I really had like latched onto for like no reason at all? Because like I tend to think a habit is something that is beyond your control for the most part. Like you're just you do this thing and you can't stop it. And I don't smoke cigarettes anymore. I really don't drink, and a lot of the other things that I would like to do are not available to me right now anyway. So what are you gonna do? But I was thinking about there was you think about those times when something changed. Specifically, it was December of 2016. I was at this bar in my neighborhood, this place, Bar 43, down the street from my house here in Queens, and I had just spent 3.5 hours, watching the Philadelphia Eagles lose to the Baltimore Ravens, and the waitress comes over and gives me my check, and it's $60. So it's like I'm out easy. I always tip well because like I'm sitting there for 3.5 hours, so you got to tip at least $20. So
Right.
it's like $80 off the top, right? Like just for the privilege of eating chicken wings and whiskey for breakfast and watching this team just lose. And this was their fifth loss in a row at the end of the season. There was a brand new coach, a new quarterback. Everything was supposed to be brand new. Like since I moved to New York City in 2007, I had tried to find places where I could, watch the Eagles. It was something I did every Sunday. When I was 12 years old, right in that, impression part of being a young man, the Eagles had this coach named Buddy Ryan. He looked like bread that like beat up another loaf of bread. And he was amazing. He had this defense that eventually developed into what was called the gangrene defense. It was like, Clyde Simmons and Reggie White and Andre Waters and all these guys, and it was thunder and destruction every week. And they had this really electrifying quarterback guy named Randall Cunningham, and he was like he could jump and run and throw, and he was just amazing. And like as a kid, like these are your heroes, and I fell in love with this team. And like I'm 12 years old, and they're in the playoffs, and they're playing Chicago, and they have a real good chance to go to the Super Bowl, and it's a big deal, and everyone down in South Jersey is so happy about it. All of a sudden, it's game time, and the Eagles are playing well. Then at halftime, because it's Chicago, like fog rolls in, and it's called the Fog Bowl now. You can look at like footage of it, like they played the game and no one could see each other, and like the Eagles lost the game. And then like after a while, like Buddy Ryan got fired, and then they hired this guy Richie Kotite. He used to be like he was involved with all these other shit teams, and then Jerome Brown died, and then Randall Cunningham got married to a Vegas showgirl, and everything went crazy, and like all this stuff, and it was just like the team just started imploding all throughout the 90s. As I'm like a young man, they were still fun to watch, except they kept losing, and everybody was angry. And you listen to WIP radio after the show or after the game, or like in between, everybody was just like furious all the time, and like that was what it was, man. It was just like being a I'm a Philadelphia fan across the board. Well, it's a longer story. I don't watch hockey, but it's all about pain. It made me who I am. Like I understand what it is to lose. Because I just like you follow teams and you put your passion into it, and they just continue to shit the bed like one way or the other. The Eagles then fired Rich Kotite, and then they hired Ray Rose, and that was just a debacle. Eventually, they like hired Andy Reid, and like he looked like a walrus, and they drafted this new quarterback like Donovan McNabb, and everybody booed him. And like he was also like electrifying. He was like Randall Cunningham, but like big and thick, and he sold Campbell's Chunky Soup, and it was exciting. And like he loved his mother. He was from Chicago. It's like I can get behind this guy, and it was really just amazing. And then they had a big run. They went to the Super Bowl. They lost the Super Bowl, but like it was still like exciting. That when they lost in ways that like only these operatic, like tragic, horrible ways. Like anything that could go wrong did go wrong. Like that's just the way it is to be a fan of Philadelphia sports teams, particularly of the Eagles. It's like anything could go wrong, it will go wrong. Who's going to get hurt? Like my 30th birthday, my wife Sarah got me tickets to go to an Eagles game. She bought me a brand new Donovan McNabb jersey. We got to the game in the first quarter. McNabb hurt his knee in the season. I never wore that jersey again. It's in a drawer. It's a throwback. I'm gonna wait 30 years and then maybe I'll be able to wear it again. But that's just what it is, man. Like that's just what it is. And so when I moved to New York, I wanted to find, because because the Giants are on TV, the Jets are on TV. They weren't gonna play the Eagles because nobody likes Philadelphia for good reason. Like like the fans are animals and the teams are a nightmare. No one wants to watch that, right? So I couldn't watch it at home. So I found this bar around the corner, same any kind of sports bar, same as anywhere else. They have like a listing of like what games are going to be on what TV, and all the waiters and waitresses are dressed in like they're working at Foot Locker, like they're referees.
Right.
And you walk in and you're supposed to get in there at like 12:30 so you can get your seat for your 1:00 game, and it smells like bleach, like like a bar in the morning, and the first thing you drink is a Budweiser, because you know what I mean. It's like that's not. Like I have a cup of coffee at home, I go over there, and then like I'm drinking Budweiser because it's on special. Miller Lite if I'm fancy. And then like I'm sitting there and just watch this team lose. And I'm the only Philadelphia fan in the whole place. The rest of them are either Giants fans who could be watching on television in their house, or they're Jets fans, and they should be working at the firehouse. All Jets fans are firemen, as far as I can tell. And so I'm the only miserable jerk sitting in this bar watching the Eagles lose week after week, knowing that they're going to go nowhere. So this is my life. And at the end of the season, the last two games are against the Giants and against the Cowboys. They're national games, so I can watch them on TV, and that's fine. And I love watching the Eagles because I know that like when I'm watching the Eagles, everybody I went to high school with is doing it too. All the kids I grew up with, everybody back home, everybody's like having a shared experience. Yeah, and as you end up getting older and you start to shed the people in your life, just because like you get your exit velocity, hopefully, from whatever that gravitational pull that like held you from the place where you were born. You want to hold on to at least some totems of the things that like were you before you became who you were. And one of those things was watching the Eagles. However, man, like I just couldn't do it anymore. And you watch these guys like torture themselves, and you watch I would watch the jingoistic like flag waving and like celebration of all this stuff that I don't belong in. Every other commercial was for a truck, and like I don't want to anyway. And like none of it meant anything to me. And like in the off season, the league pulled their money from the concussion research. That they made a big deal about donating the concussion research, and then they quietly pulled their money from it. And then they kept yelling about everybody's yelling about the protests and Colin Kaepernick and these guys taking a knee, trying to bring attention to these horrible inequalities, particularly with the way the black folks are treated by the police. All this, and then the owner of the Eagles said something shitty about it, that these guys shouldn't be. It's not the time or the place. And I was like, in August, right before the season starts, I just said to myself, "That's it. I'm done. I'm done with football." And I called my buddy John, and he had given up on football the year before, and he was like, "Congratulations, you're gonna like it. It's gonna be tough." And what I did was those first couple Sundays in September, I was at the time selling a lot of pottery, so I booked myself at craft fairs on the weekends so I could just hang out with my friends at pottery. And it was fun. I didn't have to worry about the Eagles. It was great. And then it got to be week. And my wife Sarah says, the Eagles are 4-1 right now, right? I was like, I can't even.
Oh no,
I can't do it. To be honest, in my corner of my eye, I did keep an eye on what they were doing throughout the year, but I didn't watch any of the games until they made it to the goddamn Super Bowl, and they're in the Super Bowl. And I quietly turned the television on, and we there's the only football game I watched that year. And I sat in my living room and watched every break that normally would turn the crap way worked out. They did it. Now it goes down in history called the Philly special, where it shouldn't have worked. Where Carson Wentz, a quarterback, he was down and out for weeks before. Nick Foles came in, the second string guy. They brought him back. He gets the ball. They directs out to someone else. He runs off, catches it, and they beat. And they beat the Patriots, who are might as well. Who cares? It's the empire. No one cares about the Patriots and the Yankees and the Lakers. Nobody gives a shit unless you're listen. The point I'm trying to make is I'm watching this team that I had watched and suffered for and bled for and believed that I was a part of somehow. My entire life I watched them disappoint me at every turn. And then I give up on them, and the clock turns to zeros, and they win the goddamn Super Bowl. And I walk outside with a glass of whiskey, and I can see the Empire State Building from the corner of my house, and it's lit up in green and white in Eagles colors, the Empire State Building. And I realized, what did I even do? It matters anyway. That was it for me with the Eagles. That habit is broken, and I don't watch them anymore ever. But I still have the Sixers and I still have the Phillies, and they break my heart every goddamn year. Words.
but there's still the Flyers.
No, I stopped watching. And they were up 3-1 against the New Jersey Devils, and I think it was 1999. And they lost that series, and I was like, you know what? I'm done with hockey anyway. And so I'm sorry.
Fine, understandable. You listen, as someone, you are hilarious telling that, only because obviously I know you a little bit, but I also just love how your angry passion really comes through. You're right. And someone just wanted to let us know, our producer wanted to let us know that they lost today. So
Good.
There you go. That is such a lovely button to this day. Peter Aguero, the best. I am crying with your trajectory. And you're right. I think we all feel like we're part of some team somewhere. And then it often happens that as soon as you just turn away, you're like, oh yeah, they'll do fine without me.
It doesn't matter. You're rooting for laundry. It doesn't it's not, it matters anyway.
You're the best. I love you, Peter. Peter Aguero, everybody.
Doc Rivers gonna break my heart out. See you guys. Thank you.
You're the best. Oh my goodness. Oh,
I love that.
So funny.
Laundry. Oh, I can relate.
Oh, so funny.
Peter Aguero he's hilarious. Oh, Peter, thank you. That was hilarious. So great to have you on our show. Thank you. It was so good to laugh like that. I love that. That was good.
And you know what? It's I will just say this. It sounds like I'm making a broad stroke generalization, but perhaps I am. I really don't hear a lot of sports stories There's, of
Oh.
course, there's so many sports fans out there. There's so many people that do sports. I feel like don't get to hear a lot of sports stories.
Oh, wow.
And so I especially appreciated just, from the fan point of view too, is just great.
Oh, I love sports.
The tortured fan.
I love sports writing too. Sports writing is great. Oh, that was so great. That was just fun.
Yeah.
Also, because I live in Pennsylvania now. I'm not an Eagles fan or a
Exactly.
football fan, but because I moved here when they went into the Super Bowl, and I walked into the Wawa because I have no idea. I'm not a football fan. I was like, is something going on today? And like the whole store stopped. They were like, it's the Super Bowl with the Eagles. And I was like, is that the team here? They were like,
They're like, you're out. We don't want to.
Yeah, run out of town. You're not a magician to Pennsylvania. Anyway, so our next storyteller, I'm really excited about. He's Leo Steingart. So let's welcome him to the screen. Hey, Leo.
Hi,
How
Leo.
you doing? I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing really, really good.
Excellent. And you're up in Vermont, right?
I am. I'm avoiding the apocalypse right now. Just
So that's a safe zone, Vermont.
oh yeah.
Good to know. Good to know. So do you have a habit story for us tonight?
I do have a habit story for you.
Excellent. Let me hear it.
All right. So if you guys don't know me, if anyone out here knows me, I'm a very annoying person. Like to the extent that it gets a little bit crazy. Now, when I was in 7th grade, I had a group of friends and I thought we were like super close. And I was like, I know them, they know me. And we hung out like all the time after school, especially on Fridays. Like we'd all have that thing where like, you know, in movies, the clock would slowly be ticking and you know the bell's about to ring.
Yeah.
And we'd all kind of look at each other like, let's get ready. And we'd always walk down to my house and we'd always play Mortal Kombat, eat complete junk food, and watch YouTube videos. And we did this for a good like 2 years, up until 7th grade. Now, I was always kind of a very talkative and very annoying person, and I never shut up. I can admit that. I'm man enough to admit that. Basically, one day I start to notice, oh, okay, they're going to lunch without me. So I'm like, okay, maybe I can just follow them and see what's happening. They make up an excuse, and I'm like, oh, okay, guess you don't have enough room for me. So I felt kind of bad. Then I'm like, okay, next day, same thing. The next day, same thing. And I eventually was like, okay, something is going on. So one day I was coming out of my rehearsal for the musical that I was in, the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee.
Oh, I love that.
Such a fun show.
Yeah.
And I get a text. And it's from a guy named Jesse, who's a new kid. I don't really know him very well, but we talked a bit, but he texted me and he says, you need to stop harassing my friends. So first of all, I'm like, what? And he starts to say to me, yeah, they've been telling me you stalk them or harass them or you follow them. And I'm like, okay, first of all, they are my friends, not in like a sadistic, like creepy way. But I'm like, first of all, they are my friends. And then they're like, no, they're not. They're not your friends. And then he sends me a photo of the stuff that they said, like really hurtful stuff in like a group chat. Like, he used to be cool. We really liked him, but now he's annoying. And then he called me a few bad words. I'm not going to repeat here, but I was like, as angry as I was, there was almost like a sense of, wow, I can kind of see where they're coming from. I can't be annoying.
Huh.
So I close the text and I block him for a little bit and I call my dad and I'm like, Dad, listen, I just found out that my friends are like hate me in a way. They don't want to hang out with me. And I'm like this little kid. I'm really sad. I felt like these are my best friends. Like they got me. I was the funny guy. I made them laugh. Now I attempt to make jokes and they usually bomb. Like they're terrible now. That doesn't matter. But they got me. And my dad says to me, I'm actually 10 minutes away from your school, so I'll come and pick you up. So I'm waiting in the lobby and I'm thinking like, oh, this sucks. like part of it, I understand part of where they're coming from, but at the same time, I'm like, you could have told me that. Like, you didn't have to have some kid I barely know deliver the news to me. That's just not cool. So pretty much I get in the car with my dad and I talk to him. And he says, listen, I know you're sad, so I'm going to do something that'll cheer you up. So my dad drives me down to his theater. My parents run a theater, by the way, for a nonprofit artists. It's a non-for-profit theater for emerging artists. I'm so sorry. Yeah. So I go in there, and the show that night was called Showgasm. That's the name of the show. And on stage was a drag queen and future SNL star Bowen Yang.
Wow.
Needless to say, it was very funny. It was a very funny show. And I walked in and like everyone knew me, and I was like, I felt really special. And it had been like a really, really tough night for me because my friends had pretty much just betrayed me. They're like, no, we're not your friends anymore, dude. So I looked around and I was like, you know what? Being an entertainer, I see people on stage entertaining others right now, and I see people enjoying that. I want to do that. There's still more. I don't want to be a drag queen because that could be weird because there was a drag queen on stage. That's not what I'm saying. I just want to entertain people. That's not the route I was going down. If there was any confusion, pretty much I was like, there's a point to all of this. That there has to be. This has to have happened for a reason. Mm-hmm. So I pretty much go back home and I show my dad the texts, and he calls the school. And the school expels Jesse for bullying me and stuff. They couldn't really do anything with the other kids because the other kids didn't specifically say it to my face. So I'm stuck in school. I have like no friends now. I'm like a sad little kid and still really annoying. I'm not going to lie. I'm still annoying. And I just feel completely alone. And my dad notices this. And I'm coming home every day really sad. And he says to me, hey, have you talked to Tommy at all? Now, to give you some insight on who Tommy is the son of my parents' friend. And usually when like your parents have friends and they have kids, it's usually like they have a dinner and they don't want the kids in the room, so they throw the kids in the other room like, you're the same age, we'll get along. Yeah. And there's never any chemistry. Like either one of them's on the phone, so I'm like, okay, I'll call up Tommy. So I hadn't seen him in a while. So I called him and we started texting, and I'm like, oh my God, you have a lot in common with me, like a scary amount. And then I realized he liked Star Trek. I like Star Trek. He liked superheroes. I like superheroes. Huh. Movies. I like movies. He liked junk food. I like junk food. He had an extremely dark sense of humor. I had an extremely dark sense of humor. And when I say dark, I mean dark to the extent that I'm not saying any of the jokes we talk about here. Because I don't want to be sued or something. And I realized, oh my God, you are my new best friend. So with Tommy, I really felt like I had a friend who understood me. I didn't have to pretend to be something else, and he never judged me. To this day, like he's my brother, essentially. We have not fought ever. We've never fought. And it's crazy because it's been that long. We haven't had a single fight. But with him, I felt great. And at school, I was still completely alone. And it was hard. It was easier because I had Tommy to lean on, but it was still really hard. So eventually, due to other stuff in school, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm leaving the school. This isn't working out for me. Pretty much, I'm about to go to a new school. And I take a tour. I'm like, oh, I love this school. Little to my knowledge, it was a terrible school. I left that school as well years later because they handled COVID terribly. That's not the point of the story. At the time, I was like, this is great. This is a fresh start. And I go into the office and they're like, oh, here you go, son, sign here and you're a student. So I sign the paper and I'm so excited. And I walk out and I'm like, yeah, fresh start. And then I see someone who I haven't seen in a while who sees me, and he's holding a cone, like one of those terrible quality paper
All
water.
those water things, yeah.
Yeah. And he drops the cone on the floor. And I'm like, oh my God, it's Jesse. And I was so upset and scared because I had worked so hard to like try to get over this with Tommy. And there he was. Like the guy who I felt like kind of did me wrong. So at first I was like, oh, I am screwed. This is not good at all. So Jesse was also scared, and he kind of told people some stuff that didn't really happen. So I didn't go up to the new school with the people didn't have the best idea of me, even though he admits to this day it wasn't true. So for the first 2 years of that school, me and Jesse like did not like each other. It was bad. It got to the point where like we really just wanted to, like, he wanted to beat me up, I wanted to beat him up. We never did. Pretty much one day Jesse is walking in the hallway and he comes to me and says, Leo, listen, I want to make a movie. And I'm like, why are you telling me this? And he says to me, because everyone else is going to judge me. And I think to myself, what do you mean? And he starts to tell me his idea. And I'm like, okay, first of all, if he's conning me, like, this is a really, really well done con. And I'm like, okay, I'll help you, I guess. And I start to realize I have a lot in common with this guy.
Huh.
And we start to talk a lot. And eventually I tell him my problems. He tells me his problems. And we forgave each other about everything. And now we're partners. We not romantically. We're partners in the sense that I write movies with him. He writes movies with me. We work together, and he's one of my best friends now. And it just to show that even if you have a terrible relationship with someone, both can grow. And I mean, he's one of my best friends now. So yeah.
Wow. I love that story. You know what I love about that is that, like when something happens, it's like I always try to remind, especially something that's like bad or uncomfortable. It's trying to remind, like, this is what it looks like today. It's like I love that couple of years later and it looks completely different. And you have it. Do you think that you guys have an even deeper friendship because you went through all of that?
Oh, most definitely. We constantly joke about the time, like, oh, I remember the time I got you kicked out of school.
That's amazing.
And yeah, but
oh my gosh, and it was so weird how faded it was too. You go to this new school, you're all excited about like this fresh start, and you walk out and it's like meant to be. Oh, that was great, Leo. Leo Steingart, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on the show. It was such a pleasure.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
Thank
Leo
you
Steingart, everybody. Thank you. Excellent. We're gonna hey, Ophira. Ophira's back. You're muted.
Sorry. I'm in Brooklyn, and there's just so many. There's just so much noise out here. I keep muting myself to save the show. It's to save the show. So people can hear.
I appreciate that.
That was great. I don't mean to rush things along, but I have to. I have to rush things along, Michaela, for our final storyteller.
Yes,
because I know there's shows, and then there's more shows.
Yes, that's right.
So,
at 8:00. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me just introduce our final storyteller.
Yeah,
with his story. We both met him through The Moth, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just a master storyteller through The Moth, and I've had the honor of working with him in many different cities, but never virtually. So this is a new one for us, Ray. Ray Christian, everybody. Please welcome Ray Christian. Hey. Hi, Ray.
Yeah.
Oh, you're muted.
Okay.
Oh, there you are.
All right, now I'm here. Well, look here. I'll go ahead and kind of move through my story then.
Tell me a story.
Okay, look, habits, right?
Yeah.
Doing something over and over again. Yeah. Habits, people look at your habits to see if you're doing things that are outside the norm. So listen, when I was a drill sergeant in the Army a long, long time ago, my partner was a woman, real competent, hell of a soldier. We spent a lot of long nights together, a lot of stress together, a lot of conversations, working months and months, really good friend. We drank a lot of beer together, loved this woman, best friend I had. But the thing was, we never really spent any time one-on-one off the base. She would never invite me over to her place, and she would never accept any invites to come over to my place. So I asked her one day, what's up? I know it's not anything romantic between us, but why don't we ever like hang out just one-on-one? And she says, Ray, I'd like to do that, but here's the thing. I'm gay. Now, saying that today means absolutely nothing, but this was prior to Don't Ask, Don't Tell, when the military had really draconian rules in terms of being a homosexual in the military. I mean, you could be subject to a court-martial, non-judicial punishment, and even administrative action if it was just alleged, if it was more likely than not. If you were overheard in a conversation, people saw something about you. So her telling me this was more than just throwing it out there as a character trait, but rather that she really trusted me, that we really, really were close friends now. So I went over to her place, we're drinking beer, and there's a knock on the door. A couple of her friends come over, and these two women see me, and they stop dead in their tracks, and their eyes lit up. And one of the girls grabbed her by the arm and said, "Let me talk to you in the back for a minute." And I could hear them in there arguing, and she's going, "Are you crazy? You bring this fucking guy in our place. What's wrong with you? We could all get in trouble." She goes, "No, listen. Ray is cool. Ray is my friend." I'm telling you, she said, "Well, is he family?" And I took that to mean, was I gay? And she said, "No, but he's my friend. He's cool. I promise you." So after a couple of weeks, maybe several months, they became relaxed around me. And then over time, more and more people were showing up that were her friends, that I could see connections all over the base. This like secret lesbian network. What we used to always joke about when we were together about, something, Ray, you should date every one of us, to kind of throw people off our track. Because in our time together, a lot of the girls would say, or women would say, things about guys putting pressure on them, guys asking them out, guys hitting on them, questions about why aren't you dating, how come you're not married, this and that, like really digging into their business. And one particular Friday night, we're drinking beer. One of the women were saying, that she was really stressed out because her commander actually called her in to ask her to answer to these rumors that she might be a lesbian. And she was all upset about it, And so in our drinking, everybody started saying that maybe it was time now to really execute this plan. Ray, you just going out with everybody, let them see that. Now, keep in mind, a female drill sergeant, very rare, very rare. Nobody's dating a female drill sergeant. What are the odds? What are the odds, right? And they were talking about, it'd be good for you, a rep, think about it, Ray, do it. I'm like, you think anybody would actually believe this? So we decided to put the thing into motion. So one of the first girls, their unit was having an after graduation party, get together. They drink, they barbecue, they talk about the end of the cycle. So she clearly had never worn a pair of high heel shoes in her life. I don't know why she chose to pick them that day. Clearly, she had never worn any lipstick either. She had this weird, really over-lipped, red, glossy stop sign lipstick, these awkward high heel shoes, a dress she didn't feel comfortable in. She was drinking a lot, and people were noticing us. Yeah, they were getting attention. But when I left her to go in the bathroom, I overheard two guys saying, "Man, do you believe this shit for a second? Look at that. That's the weirdest thing I ever. Who's this guy? Yeah, supposed to be her boyfriend." So I overheard that, and I told her, "Listen, we're gonna have to up our game a little bit. People are not buying this at all." So I don't know what she took that to mean, but she decided to sit in my lap. She started drinking more, and just really like flirting in a way that people don't really flirt in public. She even licked my face. So people saw that and they were like, oh, damn, okay, that's kind of strange. And it looked weird to her chain of command. So moving quickly into the story, 2 other girls, the thing with them is they were a couple themselves. So we had kind of agreed that when I would go out with each one of them, obviously it's not going to be anything, it's nothing romantic, but each of them showed up to my date with each of them. And each of them started tripping and making a damn scene. And of course, that got put out like, damn, Sergeant Christian, he's a real ass, to boot. Now he's dating 3 female drill sergeants. What are the odds? The 4th girl, she was more masculine than me, and there's nothing wrong with that. And of the 4, we probably got along the best. We went out to the NCO club, and we were into sports, and she liked to work out, and we 2 guys, we're just 2 boys, but it was like we looked at each other, and everybody else looked at each other and went, hell no. There's no way. Hell, that's a couple. And people started approaching me from different perspectives. Like guys would go to me and say, hey, Christian, I heard about your dating, man. Listen, come on, guy to guy, soldier to soldier, brother to brother. You're not dating those damn women, are you? A couple of them, we know to be gay, man. Who you bullshit? Nobody's going to believe that. I would respond always the same. No, man, I'm really dating them. Then word started getting around that my personal behavior was showing poor conduct. I was dating these women. 2 women were fighting over me. And that's the line they tell, why these incidents. To throw people off, they say, well, because they both love me. Okay, people are really raising their eyebrows. 4 women. So the commander wants to see me, to talk to me about my unprofessional behavior. And really, I was subject to some punishment. So the day I was supposed to see him, the sergeant major, he stops me at his door and he says, look, Christian, before you go in there, do your damn self a favor. Everybody knows you are not dating those women. Help the Army, help yourself. Let's get rid of these freaks. Do yourself a favor. I said, I can't do that. So I go inside the commander's office. He looks at me and he says, I want to talk to you about your behavior, your personal conduct. Word is that you are dating these female drill instructors. You got into some personal issues in a public place. Your personality is in question. Your professionalism is questionable. And so I'm thinking about subjecting you to some non-judicial punishment for your actions. But before I consider any of this, listen, do you think any of us believe that you're actually dating those women? Why in the world would you be doing this? I said, sir, I love them all. He said, bullshit. Get out of my office. Now, can I trust you with my secrets? Will you trust me with yours? That's the same measure I use for what's a friendship today.
Hey, Christian. Oh my goodness. And by the way, I can totally imagine any 4 people, doesn't matter what their preferences are, being in love with you at the same time. Okay? I'm just going to say that.
Amazing? Yes, love. That's what I was saying. That's my story. I'm sticking with it.
That's a great story. Oh my goodness. Expertly told. And may I also commend you on the best shirt on this particular show. May I just say that? That is but that is
I totally
wow.
agree.
Wow.
I totally can see Love and Ray. Oh, I love that. I love that my secrets are safe with you. Yeah, that's great.
So good.
Thank you. That was fantastic.
So
I like
what it is to be close.
I like the shirt award too. That's a good thing to add. Ray Christian, everyone. And let's bring everybody back on. We've got Leo Steingart, the great Peter Aguero, the former Eagles fan, Ophira Eisenberg, and Murphy. Oh, look at that. He's got the shirt.
Yes.
Oh,
and look at Michaela.
2 of them.
Eagles off. We're just rooting for larger. So next
It's
week,
amazing what happens.
we're back here next week on the 18th with Playhouse Live. We've got the Playhouse First Virtual Gala on October 24th. And then Word of Mouth shows up again on November 15th. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to the storytellers, Ray, Peter, Leo, Ophira. Love to you all, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye now.
Thank you so much.
Bye.